Welcome back to episode 4 of Love and Knowledge. I'm your host, Mitchell Prettyman, and today, we are going to be looking at what exactly is the difference between spirituality and religion. Spirituality or religion. Both, one would say, has a lot to do with the word spirit. So let's break that down a little bit. The word spirit has many different meanings, but when humans refer to spirit, they're typically talking about the immaterial part of themselves that is distinct from the physical body. This can include the soul, the mind, consciousness, or the essence of a person. There is no one specific definition of spirit. The different people have different beliefs about what it is and what happens after death. We all do. Does any of us really know? I mean, people that have died would probably died and come back, I should say. Probably have the best idea, but really, you're just barely scratching the surface, and there are many different experiences on that front. Some religions believe that the spirit is immortal and lives on after the body dies, while others believe that it simply ceases to exist. More of an in the spirit of, like a pattern of energy, so to speak, that when the pattern ceases to function, like when the material body dies, like the driving force behind it ceases to exist. And personally, I believe it's a little bit of both, in that when we die, the essence of what we are ceases to exist in this timeline, but the template of who we are is forever woven in the possibility of the fabric of what we know to be the universe or existence at large. The math that creates all of this, as the underpinning element. But this is a huge topic of debate, and no one person, I believe, is right. I believe that everybody together, all of the different perspectives, is what makes what we are what we are. Without any one perspective, the superposition that we call existence would collapse. The math of infinity compounded by eternity wouldn't line up. It wouldn't come together in the way that it is. But getting back to basics, regardless of one's belief, the spirit is often seen as the source of a person's emotions, their feelings, their values, their sense of identity and purpose in life. Their essence, what makes them them, is often attributed to what we mean when we say spirit. It's like in the spirit of, when we talk about that, it's almost like an attribution, or a characteristic set that we use to identify the habits or actions of a person, why they do what they do, how they do what they do, the immaterial part of it. And this immaterial part, it has two different camps on how we look at this and what this really means. And one group, I would say, looks at it from, it's like a personal examination that's attributed via the experiences, the direct experiences that somebody picks up in life. Whereas religion is more a template that somebody created based on their experiences and many people replicate it over and over and over again as a tradition or a ritual. And religion it's more like it's a complex, multifaceted concept, and there is no one definition that's universally accepted. However, they do share a lot of common characteristics, such as beliefs in higher powers, set of moralities or ethical principles, and it's usually a community that shares these beliefs and practices. But religion can play a really important role in people's lives, providing them with a sense of meaning and purpose, a system of values, and community for support. And a lot of times this can be very beneficial to a life form. It allows you to function because a lot of the big questions are already set for you. You just believe this. It answers a lot of the broad stroke questions. What are we? Why are we here? What do we do to go on? When we have all those figured out, you don't really have to think about that day to day. It's just like, oh no, that's just a compartment that I've already taken care of because I trust the people that taught me this, and I have searched for myself inside this framework of mind, and it works for me. It offers a sense of comfort, a sense of, all right, we know what we're doing, and so therefore I am more secure in my place in the universe. And in times of solace or in times of difficulty, it can help people cope with death and loss because it offers a framework of what happens after the fact. Because for a lot of people, when you're told, like, all right, after death, nothing happens, some people look at that and they're just like, well, if nothing happens after death, then I'm just going to act however I wish, regardless of how selfish that is. And it leads to a sense of nihilism. It's like there's no purpose, there's no meaning behind any of this, and so it doesn't matter what I do in life. And when we get into this kind of mind frame, it is very detrimental to society and life forms as a whole. If everybody just did what they wanted to do and treated each other like objects, there would be no trust within society. If we got no trust within society, there is no society, because society is a agreement between everybody that, okay, we're going to treat each other well, we're going to treat each other according to these principles, and that's why we're going to work together. That's why it's very important that our leadership is held to a very high standard within our society. If that's how we structure it, where there is an authority, a proxy basically, to handle things impartially, if that authority is ever corrupted morally, or if that authority succumbs to nihilism or a self-serving state, society usually ends up going haywire. We look at all of the ancient empires, all of the ancient societies, and every single one of them that gets selfish, self-serving, starts treating each other like objects just to be used for simple pleasures, they all fall apart. Because when nobody trusts each other, again, there is no more agreement. Laws don't mean anything because nobody's paying attention to them. Nobody believes in the moralities, the structures of truth behind what we're doing. Truth has a structure to it. And when I say structure, I mean something that's true is something that you can depend on. It's not based in illusion. It's based in an objective experience. When people kill, generally, it is a destructive act. It is something that causes pain more often than not. That is something that can be objectively agreed upon. Society is a series of agreements. Laws are agreements. And just like that, just like with the secular society, in religion, the religious traditions are a series of agreements that people have over time developed because they have seen in my life experience these things ring true. These things, like when I pray or when I channel the power around me, the higher power, into me, I feel better, I feel stronger, I feel empowered. When we connect to certain essences within existence, certain ideas, concepts, all have a spirit. When you watch Marvel Avengers and you see all of these very powerful beings doing powerful, bold things, you will be filled with that feeling. When we watch different media, we are filled with that feeling. That's why it's very important to watch what you're watching. That's why in a lot of religions, it's like, don't look at things that are going to degrade your spirit, going to degrade your morality, that are against certain principles of that religion. Because when you observe something and contemplate it, you are filled with the energy of that thing. When we think of things, we channel the spirit, the immaterial essence of that thing. And that is a very potent power, something that we hold above animals. Sentient beings can have ideas, and those ideas are a channel to meaning, to power, to energy that suffuses the action of the being entertaining it. When you look at SEAL Team 6, most of us have never seen or gone through a SEAL Team 6 action. But yet when we look at it and we see it, we are suffused by the energy and the power of that group of individuals. It's a potent, powerful force that's based on what we imagine or what we have been told by others that is. It suffuses us, it empowers us, and we've never even touched it except in our mind. And so when we as children, or when we as new recruits, say new soldiers, aspire to that level of being or thinking or acting, when we think of being SEAL Team 6, you're channeling that force. And in religions, that's what you're doing when you're talking about higher powers, like this higher order to existence. You're connecting with that. And as a sentient being, it is one of our most potent abilities, whether you believe in higher powers or not. You can be an atheist and do the same thing, not believing in any sort of higher order, even though the laws of physics themselves could be your higher power. You can still channel ideas that are of a greater magnitude than you. Like when you think of atoms being rendered down to their components inside a black hole, it produces a feeling within you. It produces an idea. And if you were to apply that idea to yourself when you're gripping a clod of mud in your hand, rendering it down to its component atoms, you can use the power of that idea to give the body added strength, because you're giving it a template of energy to use when you're commanding it, so to speak. When you do this with a religion, it is usually coming from a place of tradition. It's coming from a set template, whereas with spirituality, it's coming from a personal belief, a personal experience. Spirituality is more of, I'm figuring this all out on my own and I'm creating my own templates of belief. Whereas religion is, I'm relying on the structure already set in place by people around me to guide me in this direction, and I'm going to figure it out on my own, because I believe that, we all have our own religions and our own spiritualities. I don't think that anybody is completely spiritual or completely religious, because I think spirituality is the egoic component. It's the personal component of connecting with the immaterial, whereas religion is the collective. And this sense of meaning and purpose coming from the essence of things, the spirit itself, I believe, because we associate spirit with our immaterial essence. When we align with that underlying characteristic, it resonates with us. That's why we feel a sense of meaning, because we're aligning with who we really are. And when we can give ourselves license, like when we get into contact, when we discover deeper aspects of ourselves through our life experiences, and then we allow ourselves to align with it, whatever it be, we feel better. When you act with your deepest authenticity, you feel good about that because you are serving a purpose in existence. Because each one of us is an upwelling from the central source of existence. We are a set of mathematical computations that the universe or God or whatever you want to call it is making. We, each one of us, have a objective by the structure of what we are and by the essence that flows through that structure, like immaterial to material. Because really, when you break it down, material is just the slowest form of the immaterial. Energy itself, like matter, is just the slowest vibration of energy, or what we know to be energy. And we say immaterial because it is something that you're not in a physical contact with, but you have elements. Your mind, for example, comes into contact with the immaterial. The mind slows down the essence of the spirit in which we do things, or the spirit of ourselves, depending on how you look at it, and creates a structure that doesn't yet interact with the material realm, but it interacts with elements within the mind. It's like when we come across a new idea. That idea didn't exist in the mind before, but when the idea is explained, or when the essence coalesces into a more solid form through repetition or observance, when you walk into a room and everybody like looks at you, you like freeze. It's like, why is that? Because when we observe things, it goes from a waveform to a particulate state. This particulate state is something that is happening inside the mind at a level that is difficult to measure. We're getting better at it. And eventually we will be able to see what a person is thinking. If we can't already, probably some Black Ops projects that are getting pretty close here. But we're in this age of technology, and we're getting better and better and better at perceiving what other beings are thinking. And the point is that you are taking an essence, making it more material, slowing it down to the level of the mind. You're merging. The mind is just a merger of the material and the immaterial. The quick waveforms to the slowest waveforms. It's a bridge, a structured bridge. And then once something is thought of enough in the mind, we start to slow it down even further, and we bring that vibration into the material realm. You see a triangle, a basic principle of relation, and the essence of that relation is moving through the spiritual component, the immaterial component of observance. And that could then coalesce as a shape in that person who is observing this relation's mind. And once that is observed enough times and the thought becomes strong enough, that person might then draw it in the dirt or take sticks and create that shape. And so too, when we slow down spirit into the slowest waveforms, it then materializes in our reality. And this is how we channel higher powers. When we think something enough, when we envision it, encapsulate it, and then slow that energy down so that we can feel it, it becomes something that we can use in our physical bodies. Going back to the example of the triangle, when you create that triangle and then assign belief around that, you get something akin to religion, because you may not have the pure objective truth, but you have beliefs that settle you. You know that this is a relation. You know that it's a strong relation. When you build using this structure, it creates lasting strength. Once something is believed enough and enough structures are created around that belief, it goes from being the experience of the personal essence of something, i.e. the triangle whose aspects are strength, to being something where beliefs are assigned and traditions are created around it, describing those attributes, but other things can be added in, and when enough people believe it and that tradition passed down, it becomes religion. Now, the passing of information is good, but at the same time, passing it without examining it yourself is detrimental, because then we get things like dogma and rigidity in thinking. And when this happens, it can create problems, because religions can be used to justify violence because you don't believe what I believe. When you believe in only one thing, when somebody presents something that does not go along with that, the part of our brain that lights up is the same part of the brain that lights up when we are attacked. That's why Republicans and Democrats, for example, are so violent towards each other when different opposing beliefs are presented. And this is because, regardless of how good the logic is, because it's an opposing viewpoint, it feels like you are being physically attacked, and you respond in that way because when you solidify enough times that this belief is who I am, when you associate the belief with who you are, that is what we call ego. It's an idea of what you are, a collection of ideas that you surround yourself with. And we've talked about this in other podcasts, but it's one of the layers of sentience. And one of the greatest forms of intelligence is being able to have what you believe, hold on to what you believe, and be able to entertain something else. We call that one of the greatest levels of intelligence, because to be able to do that is what breeds connection between two ideas, two beings. And when we can't do that, wars can happen, violence is justified, oppression, discrimination. Right now, Israel and Palestine, just two opposing religions, two opposing viewpoints, and neither is able to come to terms with the other. These differing sets of beliefs, transmitted over and over and over, generation to generation across time, is what has led to a complete breakdown in communication. Each side thinks of the other as murderers. Each side, because of what's happened in the past, each side thinks of the other as terrorist organization. And we, as a people, as a species, need to recognize that if we continue on this path with the weapons that we have now, that our entire society will implode as it has done 1,000 times. In this age, we need to examine our spiritual components as we do in the realm of spirituality. Because as we come together as a world, as we're brought closer together through the internet, through our ability to communicate, through our technological advancements, we need to be able to adapt what we believe in. Because when there's more communication, we get a better look at the objective reality. We need to find the common disciplines, the common aspects to what we believe so that we can find that common essence within another so that we don't fight. And I've identified 5. 1, we just talked about, the transcendent reality or higher power. Religions acknowledging the existence of a transcendent reality beyond the physical world. You call it God, the divine, the supreme ultimate, various other names depending on the tradition. But the second one is sacred texts or scriptures, the dogma, the tradition, the repeated structure. And religions often have these texts and scriptures they're considered authoritative. They contain teachings, stories, moral guidelines, principles for living a spiritual or a righteous life. The Bible, the Quran, the Vedas, the Tripitaka, in Buddhism. And these texts, again, are templates for spiritual observance. And the biggest thing for me when I take a look at all of these religions is, where is the morality coming from? Because so much violence is justified. Yet one of the underpinnings of all of these religions is love. And I believe that comes from the need to support life. Morality itself is a societal construct so that society can go on. Like morality, don't kill another person, don't steal from them, honor, respect each other. It's like these are the things that allow life to prosper. And when we get away from these things, society breaks down, people die, we're busted back to private, as I say. Because we've seen the ancient structures of our past. They're sitting there in stone, and we can't recreate them. At some point, there was a culture that exceeded our own. We think of ourselves as the pinnacle, and we're not. We haven't even scratched the surface. We haven't even gotten to the next planet over. And we never will if we're not able to take a look at what we really are and what spirituality or the essence of ourselves is really for. It's like being yourself is well and good, but also being able to look at another and have compassion, or to go even farther and to see them as an extension of the same existence that you are. That's where compassion comes from. That's where love in its truest form comes from. Because the first love that you have is the love of yourself. It's the thing that keeps you alive. And when you see others as yourself, that's why Jesus says, love others like you love yourself. The wisdom in that is that we are all a part of the same existence. We're all an upwelling of what some people call existence, what others call the universe, what others call God. The totality, the supreme ultimate. It's like whatever name you want to give it, that's an objective truth. that we all can get behind no matter what angle you're coming from. Separation is an illusion. This is all one big superstring of energy, one big singularity. There is what exists, and there's nothing else. There is existence, and then there's nothingness. But nothingness isn't really anything. So it's this contained thing called existence sitting there in what? The vastness of space? Because space is full of stuff, so it's existence. So it's not even space. So to me, it's an infinitesimally contained object that contains all of the things that can be within this point. And we all come from it, and it's this self-replicating, self-assembling, self-aware object. It's a beingness, an oscillation. And how aware it is, I believe, is down to the connections within it. When something is hyper-connected, like a brain on psychedelics, for example, you have a hyper-connected state. And when that hyperconnection is occurring, so many thoughts are happening within that brain almost simultaneously. So many bits of information are connected. It's like our quantum supercomputers right now, because it isn't focusing on one outcome or another, a 0 or a 1. It's in a state in between. It's like there's more connection between those two states. Realizations happen faster. More information is contained in that moment of awareness. And so, similarly, the more connected everybody is to the fact that this is all one thing, and we have enough respect flowing between each other to forge connections, to share knowledge, to share information about what this is, the more aware existence is. But, conversely, the more disrespect, the more disconnection, the more misalignments happen, the more refusals to connect because I believe this, you believe that, and I cannot see myself having any respect for you as a being. It's like when we can't see the purpose or the sense in collaborating, regardless of what each person believes, then you can't use that information to create a more complete objective reality. And it's a crying shame when we do that, because we lose so much. Can you imagine if every single culture in the world connected and shared their information? Because that's what it should be. We share our technology. We share our resources so that each and every culture rises with the others. No one rises above the other. Because when we can do that, a sense of respect, a sense of unity, collaboration is produced, and we can then, it's almost like when you only are looking out for yourself, you rise high quickly. But if nobody rises with you, you cannot create a cross hatch, a cross link to that other pinnacle, that other pylon of consciousness to then build upward again. It's like, how do we build high? It's like you gotta build across. You know, you take a look at the highest skyscrapers, and it's not just one beam going up into the sky. It's many beams with cross beams in between these pylons that allows us to go up. If we're going to go up, we equally need to go out. And if you're unwilling to share, there will never be any cross-link. And so it's like you can only go so high. That's where we're at right now. Spirituality and religion. Spirituality being the cornerstone. It's like we have to shift back to that aspect of examination on a personal level. Because when we get too deep into the dogma, too deep into the tradition, we hold ourselves back in time. Because that template is what was. It's a ritual. And if we never improve upon the ritual, if we never open up and allow the idea that all spiritualities, all religions, they all point to the fact that there is an underlying essence, there's a spirit to all this. There's an animus to this, whether you're an atheist or a God-fearing person. Something animates us. Something creates this awareness within us, be it the laws of the universe or a governing intelligence. Personally, I think the universe's structures, the way that they connect, is what causes the intelligence. Because what is an intelligence? It's an awareness of relation when you break it down in the material world. You have knowledge of other points in space-time, other groupings of matter in space-time, and you move in relation to that. You can do things in relation to that. And I believe that, like, think of the brain. Like, some people say, oh, without the brain there would be no consciousness. It's, how do you know what constitutes consciousness? Because say you have a being that is larger than a galaxy. Take it from the point of a bacteria. Put yourself in the shoes of a bacteria. Does a bacteria know that the human that it's riding on is aware that it exists? Is it aware that that thing that it's living on has a governing intelligence? Maybe, but it doesn't have like a direct link with it. And so too, we're riding on the back of a planet. How do we not know that all of the interactions, all of the capillary actions of magma, the movements of the core, the movements of the wind, the movements of the waters on the planet, how can we say that there isn't an intelligence that we are not aware of? The sun, for example. Most people would look at the sun and say, no, that's not intelligent because I can't communicate with it. Well, can you communicate with a bacteria? Are you both on the same wavelength as each other, other than the desire to exist further? Most would say not really. It's kind of funny to even think about it. But we can program bacteria based on what we eat and what we expose it to. We can basically program it to either survive or die. It has to adapt to what we're feeding ourselves and therefore what it can eat. Or you have to adapt to the fact that I just jumped in a pool and the pool has chlorine in it. It's like you either adapt or die. So in that way, we commune with it. And just like that, the sun itself has moments of high activity and low activity. And that produces different effects on Earth. If the sun dims below a certain level or heats up above a certain level, that's us kaput. There's no more humanity if the temperature rises or drops too much. And that is a very interesting point because there's so many different reactions happening within the sun. And there's so many different reactions happening within our bodies. Who's to say that the number of reactions or the structure of reactions doesn't create an awareness of the relationships that it's observing, the relationships that are important to it? It's like this higher power connecting with this higher power. Because we can all look up at the sun, put our hands up, and feel good. The sun makes you feel good. It's like whenever I look up at the sun and I close my eyes, I see the flower of life pattern behind my eyelids. So many different reactions, and it's a life-giving force. It feeds the plants, it feeds all the animals, and suffuses them with energy. It's like there are levels of consciousness, and we all exist within our order of awareness, our order of structure, existential structure, meaning of existence, of the universe, universal structure, whatever you want to call it. But getting back to the commonalities of religion, one of the other common aspects is rituals and worship. And rituals and worship, the practices involved, play a significant role in religions. And these can include prayer, meditation, ceremonies, sacraments, festivals, rituals for birth, marriage, death, other important life events. And these practices provide a means for individuals to express devotion, connect with the divine, and experience a sense of community with fellow believers. And I think it's very interesting to connect with the source of divinity and to connect with community, because rituals are a symbol. It's like when we put a ring on a person's finger in marriage, this binding concept symbolizes our connection to each other eternally, our connection to the whole. It's a symbol for what is really going on underneath all of this. We are all eternally connected to each other. When we have a celebration or a ritual, we come together to connect. This sequence of symbolic actions are performed to have a deeper meaning, to remind us of what's going on. Because a lot of times we lose our way. We forget that this is all connected. Because you get into a body and you're like, oh, I have autonomous control of this thing, and I'm rolling around on this planet, and it's just me. Because I haven't developed my ability to connect with a lot of people yet. And screw them, because I don't know them, and I'm not inside their head. But when you think about it, all human minds are connected via the unified field, the electromagnetic field that permeates everything is taking in information from everything. If you drop a pin on one side of the universe, it's going to create a ripple that goes to the other side. This is known. This is a quantum aspect of our reality. And just because you can't truly connect doesn't mean it's not true. Like just because a blind man can't see, it doesn't mean that sight doesn't exist. It's just your experience of it. And we need to come to terms with that. We need to get back to the spiritual essence that everything is connected, and that morality and ethics are there so that the structure of everything can connect. The respect is there, the connection is there, the agreements are in place so that energy can flow. In a circuit in a computer motherboard, if the circuit is not there, the electrons cannot flow and nothing happens. We too are a circuit on this planet, circuits of energy, and the more that we connect and communicate, the more stuff happens. If more of us respected each other because we understood that our connection to the core of existence, to the fact, the concept, when I say core, it's the concept that we are all attached to one another. We are all existence, and therefore we are all one thing. The totality of existence encompasses us all. Everything is divided by one. Everybody that you see is a reflection of yourself. When you divide a number by one, what do you get? You get that number. It's a mirror. Reality is a mirror. And we're all reflections of all of the myriad components of existence. And we're all learning how to connect all of those things in all the different ways to create all the different effects. It's like that's our play, that's our existence. Spirituality and religion should be the primary tools to remind us that that's what we're doing. Yet we're using them as cudgels against each other, when each and every religion has points to morality and ethics, has rituals to remind us of the potent symbols underpinning reality. They all have a sacred text, a guidebook. They all believe in the transcendent reality, the higher power, the one. And there's always a life after death component to this. There's always a it will go on belief. And even in atheism, it does go on. It's like the universe goes on. You will go on. The math of your template is still intrinsic to the universe. You go on. And when you compound that by an infinite amount of time, that is an astronomical probability. All of the interactions in the entire universe, it's like that's an astronomical probability that you will come back. It's not a question of if, but when, infinite numbers of planetary interactions across the span of an eternal existence. Because when you really break it down past the universal state, it's like universes, they come and they go. They expand, they contract. So I believe that the universe is a breath. It expands out, just like a torus. It's just like all of the singularity expands out, goes out to the edge of its ability to connect as far as it can go, and then it comes back together and restarts the process. It's all the same components done in an infinite number of ways in my recollection or my synthesis of things. Everybody has a different thing, because right now we're in the phase of expansion, and based on the range of our telescopes, we cannot see it coming back together because we are looking at time still in a linear fashion. Going out and out and out, to me, means that at some point you're going to reach a maximum potential for expansion and return to sender. Just like when we breathe, there's a maximum stretch to the lungs. But getting away from my personal beliefs, the point is that things go on. Energy is neither created nor destroyed. It simply transforms. It goes on and on and on and on and on. And even if all of the atoms separate, each and every atom is a universe in and of itself. The more we study the quantum realm, the more we realize that it's just a big fractal. Every atom has underpinning subatomics, which have even smaller things and smaller things and smaller things. Follow that down, and there's enough interactions to have your own universe inside every little point. It's not so bad if you learn to adjust your scope. The basic point, the basic commonality between all things is that we are all connected. And learning how to come to terms with that on your own is just as important as coming to terms with it in a community. And when we can take our own personal experiences and add them together and have that be a malleable thing, that we come together in council and say, these are the things that we've experienced. Let's adjust the template. Because every religion could get along if they just realized their common beliefs. All roads lead to Rome. All the chess pieces get put back in the box at the end of the game. They all exist within existence, yes? They are all in the same box. Allah, God, Brahma, Shiva, the Supreme Ultimate, they all refer to the same thing, a higher power, a higher order of consciousness, a higher order of force, a higher order of energetic movement. They're all just different names for the same thing, with slight variations in the dogma. Why can't we see this? We have to be like, you're going to hell. You're going to hell because you don't believe what I believe, and your misunderstanding of this when it happens is going to cause this eternal pain for your consciousness. And to me, the pain of consciousness in that state, the hell, so to speak, is when you cannot connect with yourself. The biggest, most important thing is to connect and to love that connection. To love the fact that this goes on and on and on, regardless of the fact that you may experience some of the same shit throughout the ages. So that's a very important thing that we're all forgetting. And we're all forgetting that we're all a part of each other. It's like no matter what you believe, It's like even if at the end of this life, if I didn't live the completely Christian way, or I didn't live according to the Quran in its exact format, even if I didn't do that, I will still go on. I will still learn. I will still be a part of all this. Even if I'm rendered to my component atoms, my template still exists within the mind of the universe, within the mind of God. And at some point, being a godlike being, if you believe, it's like being a godlike being, it's like you had an experiment. I was the experiment. It's like, let's see if he can live by these principles. It's like, if it didn't happen and you're an infinitely powerful being and you have eternity to work with, wouldn't you try again at some point? It's like, all right, scrap this. But, in a million or 2 years, it's like, maybe I'll try it again, see what he does this time. Maybe I'll change a couple different factors and see if that will work. We'll call it a new universe, a different instance, a different incursion. If you want to go the Marvel route. But at the end of the day, biggest lesson from today's examination of reality is we're all a part of each other. There is meaning in life. Do you assign it? Yes, you do. The biggest thing that we can really get down to is to connect and to really use the symbolism that's written into the details of life to remember who we are, and that we're all in this together. Just keep that little piece, that little golden nugget, and get on with your bad self. I'm your host, Mitchell Prettyman, and this has been episode 4 of Love and Knowledge.